Okay, today I'm going to be talking about prodding, jiggling, and strafe peeking, and how I think it's pretty underutilized in high level ranked and sometimes even in pro play. And I see a lot of people only jiggling or like strafe peeking to kind of bait out AWP shots, but I don't see many people using it to get info for free on lines which they have, like map control in which they have. I see a lot of people like just forfeiting the lines once they think no one's there, and they just start rotating, and then they naturally just come back and play like a retake setup on their weak side. So pretty much jiggling, right, is the act of getting info for free, like you're doing it like quietly, they can't hear you. But prodding is when you're jiggling and when you get forced back, like you have the intent of like poking around, not fully committing to fights, but like you have the intent of keeping that info line until you get forced back. And once you get forced back, you have like the option to re-clear it again with your utility and just keep juggling. Or you have to forfeit it completely if they hard util you out of the line and you can't regain it back. And strafe peeking, right, is a form of jiggling, but you're harder to hit, but also you're more at risk of giving away sound cues because you're like jumping around, right? Giving away info that you're there. So my first example of prodding, right, is let's say you're playing Sky on bind, and at the start of the round, you could just do your flash, right, your regular flash, to see if there's any people belong. And if there's no one belong, or even if there is people belong, you can just do stuff like this, like jiggle, to bait out shots. Just get info for free the entire time. For example, if you do this flash, and there's like no, oh, you say, okay, there's no one belong, I'm just gonna like fuck off back to A. What if they don't hit A, right? This whole area is like gonna be dirty again, and then when you come back, when you realize they're not hitting A, and then you rotate back to B, this whole thing is sus now. It's suspect to you now. So the idea of prodding is like you don't want to forfeit the area of the map. You kind of want to keep poking it until you're like certain that they're gonna hit the site, or like someone is called to gamble somewhere based off of info. So you do this flash start round, people there, people not there, it's whatever, and then you just jiggle until you get like forced back like heavily. Like let's say you see one or two people, that's probably a good indicator for you to back off to a next line. Or they start using util, for example dart, slow, viper molly, whatever. Probably a good indication to get to forfeit this line and play on site. After that, you will have a good idea if they're heading or not within the next like 5 seconds, right? If there's a lot of people running up, since they've given away that much info, there's bound to be a lot of people running up. And if they go quiet again, that could be, you could choose either to re-clear it with a utility and then get back on the line again, and it's just free info for like forever, right? And that's such a good way of keeping map control without giving away that you're there, because you're jiggling. You don't make any sound when you do this, compared to, let's say, if you don't want to jiggle and you're just elbow and you're like, oh, there's people long, flashing, there's no one there, and then next 10 seconds you just flash it again like that. I think that's like, that gives away that you're there on the site. But if you're jiggling the whole time and they don't force you back, they don't know who's there, you don't give away anything, and you get that info every second of the round. And you know, stuff like this, like with prodding and jiggling, it's like really good on lines where you can't get like punished easily. For example, that B long on bind and A long on for server. You know, most servers they dart at the start of the round, and let's say they don't break the dart, the enemy doesn't break this dart, and then the server would be like, okay, there's no one A, I'm gonna start rotating. That's what I see a lot of like ranked, even at very high level like Radiant, they do that. They just go to stack the other side because they're gonna think they're gonna hit the other side. But once they don't hit the other side, then the whole of A is like, it's like sus now, right? So lines like these where after you get that info, and you can just keep the info like this. Like this is a really hard line to kill. You know, it's actually really hard to kill this guy jiggling, because you can get away with it, right, from jiggling this. Because it's such a far angle, and it's really hard to preempt this as well. And if you're just shouldering it for info, as soon as you see one person, you can call for, like, that they're going to retake a lobby and stuff like that. So you can get away it for free, and they don't know that you're jiggling it, or that you're getting this info for free until they actually see you, because you're doing it quietly, right? You're not giving away any sound cues doing this. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is just like be careful if they have AWP, or they have players that like to AWP, because if they contact you and they're really good at pre-aiming with AWP, they might kill you. There's a slight chance, but if you jiggle really well, like you're just shouldering it like really well, I think you can get away with it. And it's definitely worth it compared to if you just rotate off and forfeit everything. If you forfeit everything, and the enemy wants to re-clear aim in, then you're kind of fucked. And strafe picking, right, like I mentioned before, it's like a form of jiggling, but you might give away sound cues that you're there. So when you're doing it, just make sure you look at the map, top left. You see that huge circle? That's like the radius in which the enemy can hear you. So if you're strafe picking from like heaven, for example, they can't hear you at all. And this is like really hard to kill you. I guarantee you probably won't die like this, unless they're AWPing. So you have to just be aware of that circle when you're doing it. So for example, this is not a good place to do it. If you do this, then they can hear you this entire time coming up here. And if they do have an AWP, they're gonna be ready. They're gonna be ready to kill you, right? They'll be hearing you jumping, and they'll pre-aim you and try to kill you. So when you're doing it, jump peeking, you have to be wary of like the lines you're doing it at. And even like jiggling this line is kind of bad because, you know, I mentioned before of like you only really want to do it on lines where you can't get punished easily. If you do on this line, it's like pretty close, and the pre-aim is like a lot easier because of how close the line is. And also there's multiple angles they can come shoot you from. If they jump up in the box, if they don't jump in the box, there's two angles. So you just be wary of like, and you really have to know which lines are good for like getting info and jiggling. So yeah, jiggling, like prodding, stripping, it's like important because it gets you info without giving away the info that you are there until they walk up and see your body. Compared to like how I mentioned before, if you're Sky or you're Server or you're Breach, and you're constantly getting info with your util, you're giving away info that you're getting that info, if that makes sense. Like you're using utility, and that's like audio cues, sound cues for the enemy to know that you're on that bomb site and you want to get that info. And there's like room for error with those kinds of utility as well. For example, like how many times has it happened where you've dart something and then they've like hidden from the dart, or you flash something and there's like hidden behind the box, and you really never really know that they're there. But if you're doing it with your body and you're jiggling with your body, like you're 100% certain that there's no one there because you're jiggling, you're looking at it with your own eyes. But you do have to be wary that depending on the line, it may be a good indication to the enemies of the setup that you're playing. For example, on Bind again, if you're jiggling on these forward lines, they might think you're weak B, or they might also think that there's a trap set up and you're baiting them into it. But for example, if you're doing this on Haven, you're strafe picking Haven, I feel like this is pretty likely for the attackers to assume that you're gonna be weak at A if you're doing this at Haven. And let's go back to Haven as well. If you're jiggling here at A, it's a good, like if the attackers see this, they will either think that you're solo A or there's another person up close. So you can easily kind of give away your setup doing this, prodding, stuff like this. So you just have to be wary, and you can play around the fact that they know that your setup is going to be something similar to that. So you can mix up with like different variations of setups based off the prodding as well. So for example, right, let's say first 2 to 3 rounds you're doing this, and they actually hit B. You're doing the prodding, and it's only you two, and when they force you back, you two back, they think that B is free. But on the 3rd round or the 4th round, for example, they come up to take B again, that you give away the same info that you two are jiggling, but this time you have, let's just say, someone here, and after they take it, you pretend that you're falling back, but then you come back and you double swing with a flash, and you fight them. So it's just like, you have to be, you make sure that you're not readable with your prodding as well. Because if every time you're prodding and you're the only person there, then it's easy to play into if they know that once their attackers forfeit a line and you come back and jiggle, that you're gonna be the only one there. So you just have to change your setups on defense pretty much, and just be wary that you're giving away info as well. Okay, so yeah, it's a short video today on jiggling, prodding, strafing. I'm sure a lot of people know how to do them, but like I guess just being more wary of like how important it is, especially in against teams that don't like to just straight hit a site. For example, like if they like to just straight hit, yeah, straight rotating is good based off info. But if they'd like to take it really slow, you don't want to give up map control like that easily. And it's just a way of doing it for free, pretty much. So like I swear it's pretty much like wax at this point. Like if you know what you're doing, right? Let's say you dart and you clear this A line, and you have someone strafe peeking here, and say you have like a turret in here or something. Like what control do you have on the map, right? They can't be here. Like you have all this control. They can't be here. You have all this control. And now what? They're not gonna just sit around here. So they can only be here. And then you know they're taking mid, they're taking B, right? Because they're not gonna. They might have one or two people chilling here, but they're doing this. Like just like that, you pretty much have all hacks. I swear. Like you can make decisions like really easily now because you have so much info around the map. And I actually opened a Metafy as well. The link is in my Twitter. So if anyone wants one-on-one, you can go to my Twitter and click on the Metafy link. But other than that, please like and comment if you want anything else made for the next video. I'll note it down and I'll record it.